Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. My buddies and I had been planning this camping trip for months. We found this huge plot of beautiful land out in the country that was for sale and decided to go in together and buy it. The plan was to camp there for a week, do some fishing, have some beers around the fire, and just enjoy nature. When we pulled up in my truck towing the camper, we were so excited. The land was everything we had hoped for: rolling green hills, a stream running through it, huge oak trees providing shade. It was perfect. We picked a nice flat spot under one of the big oak trees and set up camp. Got the tent put up, chairs around the fire pit, and the first round of beers cracked open. Life was good. We were only about an hour into our first day there when a shrill voice pierced the peaceful countryside. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" We turned to see a woman who looked to be in her 40s, hands on her hips, stomping across the field towards us. My buddy Jeff chuckled and said under his breath, "Uh-oh, looks like we got ourselves a Karen here." "This is private property," she yelled as she got closer. "You can't just come here and camp whenever you feel like it." I stood up and tried to politely explain to her that we actually owned the land now. We had closed on it last week. I even offered to show her the deed and everything. "I don't care if you have a deed or not," she huffed. "My family has been coming here to hike and picnic for over 20 years. We know the man who owns this land, and he would never sell it to the likes of you." At this point, I was starting to get frustrated. I assured her again that we legally owned the land now and were well within our rights to camp here if we wanted. She just kept ranting about how we were trespassing. She was going to call the sheriff to have us removed. We had ruined her family's hiking spot. Just completely irrational stuff. After about 10 minutes of going back and forth and getting nowhere, I finally said, "Look, lady, I'm sorry you feel that way, but there's nothing we can do about it now. We bought this land fair and square. Now, if you don't mind, we're trying to enjoy our first day here." Well, that really set her off. She started screaming about us being disrespectful punks, and how we didn't deserve this land. She stormed off back towards her house, threatening to make us regret this. We all just laughed it off and went back to enjoying our first day. We fished in the stream, took a hike around the property, and stayed up late drinking around the campfire, telling stories and jokes. The next morning, we were woken up by a police officer knocking on the door of the camper. He informed us that the lady, who turned out to be our neighbor Karen, had filed a complaint against us for trespassing. We explained the situation to him and showed him all our documentation. After looking it over, he apologized and said we were completely within our rights to be here and that he'd have a talk with Karen about making false reports. A few hours later, Karen showed back up, this time with two other middle-aged ladies who looked just as entitled and angry as she did. She informed us that she had posted about our trespassing on the community Facebook page and rallying the whole town against us. They once again insisted we leave immediately and threatened to make things very difficult for us if we kept illegally occupying her hiking trails. At this point, we stopped even trying to reason with her. We assured her we weren't going anywhere, and she was welcome to try whatever she wanted. Well, try she did. Over the next few days, she just wouldn't leave us alone. She kept showing up with more of her Karen-esque friends, trying to bully us into leaving. She tried getting us in trouble with every authority figure she could think of. The sheriff just laughed it off at this point. He knew we were the legal owners, and this was just a crazy old lady with nothing better to do. Animal control showed up claiming we had dog traps set up to lure pets onto our land. The game warden stopped by because apparently we were running an illegal hunting operation. No matter what claims she made up, we had the documentation to prove our rights to the land. It was comical at this point watching her go more and more off the deep end while we just continued camping and having a good old time. By about the 5th day, we had given up even trying to be diplomatic with her. When she showed up with her Karen crew, we just cranked up some music and kept the party going. There wasn't much she could really do besides stand there scowling and complaining. After our week of camping was up, we started discussing taking this to the next level. We were loving the property and location. Why not build a cabin or two out here and really make it into a recreational ranch? Karen about had a heart attack when the first load of lumber was delivered. You could hear her screeching complaints from half a mile away, but we didn't pay her any mind. Legally, there wasn't a thing she could do to stop us. Within a couple months, we had 2 beautiful log cabins built overlooking the stream. We put in horseshoe pits, fire pits, cleared some hiking trails, and made it into a perfect little weekend retreat spot. While Karen still whined and complained to anyone who would listen, she left us alone for the most part. I think she realized she had lost this battle. Last I heard, she was trying to rally some funds to make an offer on the land herself, but we just laughed it off. After all the headaches she caused us those first couple weeks, there's no way we'd ever sell it to her now. This is our land now, and we'll be enjoying it for years to come. We certainly taught Karen that she can't bully people into giving up their legal rights. If she wanted to keep using this area for hiking, she should have bought it herself long ago. But it's too late now. We won this round. The next one is a pro-revenge story. This all happened around Christmas, New Year's, but I just found this sub and am obsessed with it now, so I have to give my story. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Italy in the 70s and opened up a restaurant. When they passed away, the restaurant went to my parents. Over the decades, they grew and expanded it. I have been working at the restaurant since I was 15. Over time, my parents got older and eventually retired, becoming snowbirds, go to Florida for the winters. They left the restaurant to me about a few years ago, but still retaining a small percent ownership as an additional revenue stream along with their savings and annuities. Soon as I gained control, I pretty much modernized the old place, remodeled the restaurant, changed the logo, reached out the local and national papers to put out ads, invited food critics, bloggers, vloggers, etc. It was very slow at first, and I began to worry that the loan I took out to do all this was the biggest mistake I had ever done, and I ruined 3 generations of my family's business. But eventually it began to work, and a local semi-famous YouTube featured us in one of his videos, and that was the catalyst for more people to come and review. And eventually we were seeing 5x10x the business we usually get, even if it's a Monday. We became a hot spot for major events, and it wasn't uncommon for a celebrity to come. On those nights, I even arranged for special high-profile chiefs to visit and cook for our guests. Costs a fortune. So during the holidays, we were beyond packed. It got to the point where people would have had to make reservations in July to get a table in December. This process took years to get to where we are now. When it gets busy, I don't just sit in the back office, I'm on the floor doing whatever needed to be done. Even if that means I greet people, bussing tables, or even moping the floors. Other nights when we have high-profile guests or events, I'm in a blazer and I'm acting in charge, though. On one night, a group of 6 women walk in. 5 of them look like they are still in their early 20s, and the head of the group looked like she was in her mid-20s. Best theory, she was one of the other 4 girls' older sister, or possible a older sorority sister to incoming college freshmen, maybe. I was greeting at the door. As they were walking up, Queen Bee Karen was telling the baby Karens on how this place is awesome, food is amazing, and there might even be celebrities here. When she came up to me, she told me she needed a table for 6. I replied, "Of course, can I please get the name on the reservation?" She looked at mine and said, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's okay. The owner is a personal friend of mine. He said he always has 1 or 2 tables that he keeps open for special guests and said we can have one of those tonight." Now, generally this is true of many high-profile restaurants, and lately I have been doing that as well, but I had no clue who this woman was, and she definitely never spoke to me about any of this. I did get she was trying to get in without a reservation, but she literally picked the worst person she could possibly talk to and try this. I told her, "I am sorry, but we cannot seat anyone without a reservation. As you can see, we do not any seats available." I didn't want to go all out and say I'm the owner, and we have never spoke before, so I never promised you a thing because I didn't want to embarrass her in front of the other girls she was with. At first. She then went on and said out loud to one of the other girls to take a picture of me. She will speak to the owner and make sure I'm either cleaning the toilet or fired by the end of the week. The other girls following her lead were like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I'm not sure if they were in on it with her or they honestly thought she knew the owner. Queen Bee Karen then went on and said, "Look, you can just give us a table or I can make life very difficult for you. This is not worth losing you job." Constantly pointing, just trying to put me down, saying things like, "Obviously you aren't anyone here because if you were, you would know who I am and never even try to tell me anything other than yes or of course." Constantly trying to belittle me and get that table. At this point, it was a long day for me and the way I saw it. I had 3 options. 1, tell her I'm the owner and just call her out on all of this. 2, just give her the table and let it be 3. Teach Queen Bee Karen and her little minions a lesson. I chose option 3 for various reasons, including some personality flaws I am aware that I have, but I like to think it was at least 50% really wanting to teach her a lesson. I smiled at her, said, "Of course, ma'am, follow me please," and I gave her one of the 3 tables we keep open in case a celebrity comes. It happens time to time. I told her I apologize for everything, and she is right, it would be simpler to just give her the table. I also told her that first 3 round of drinks will be complimentary. I sat them down and personally served them. As they were sitting down, I told them we do need one of your credit cards and IDs just to keep on file, and we will give it back to you before you leave. Queen Karen gave me her cards and told the baby Karen minions that tonight was on her. I took their orders and got them their free drinks and told them due to how busy we are tonight, there might be a delay on the food. All the girls were thinking of and cared about were their free rounds. They ordered their 3 rounds and still no food. They eventually called me and asked me to check on it the whole time, giving me the world's most nasty attitude since even before they ordered. I told them I will check on it, but also asked if they would like any more drinks. They ordered 2 more rounds by the time the appetizers arrived. At this point, they are all drunk, having done nothing but drink on an empty stomach most of the night and only having had salads after. As more food arrives, the more drinks are ordered. What these girls never realized was they are at our VIP table, which alone costs a few thousand just to sit in, but I didn't charge them for that. What I did charge them for was all the super expensive cocktails they had throughout the whole night, except for the first 3 rounds. In addition, the table they were sitting in, as mentioned, was VIP, so the menus were a bit different. For one, they don't say prices on them, trade secret. And in addition, it had certain higher-end menu options such as white truffle, black caviar dishes, and specially imported West Coast oysters, among other things. At one point in the night, I was honestly rethinking what I was doing and thought I might be going too far with these poor girls. They might not know any better, but some things reassured me throughout the night. Such as one of the baby Karens asked me if I felt like my life was worthless since all I ever became was a waiter. Also, one of my other employees told me how they were discussing how to duck with me, to the point that they can just do this whenever they want, and I will know to always give them a table. I also overheard them say, "Hez cute, but I would never date a waiter like that, he is such a pushover." There were a bunch of comments like that the whole night. So I kept on with their life lesson. By the end of the night, each girl racked up a bill in the range of $500, $600 per girl. When I handed Queen Karen the bill of $4,232.23 with tax and tip included, of course. I have never seen anyone sober up so quickly. She went from laughing and giggling with her friends to nearly in tears. She called me over instantly and asked if this was some kind of joke. I took the bill, looked it over, and said, "Oh yes, I apologize, I will get you the correct bill in a moment." Again, she felt a complete sense of relief, thinking she got someone else's bill, called me a duck idiot, and went on to talking to her friends. To be fair, I did make a mistake. I did forget to count her 8th order of a dozen oysters that costs about $120 per order, so I gladly just went back and added it to the order. When I went back to give her the correct bill, she flipped out again, going crazy. I just asked if there is something on this bill that she didn't order. She and the girls in shock go over every single line of the bill, including the first few lines that show their original 3 rounds, which say complimentary. They then took out their phones and line by line went over everything line by line for the 100th time, adding everything up. Extremely rattled, Queen Bee Karen simply said, "1 second, I need to use the washroom." Part of me thought that she might just pull a dine and dash and leave the baby Karens with the bill, but kinda low-key I did in a way remind her we had her ID and CC without making it obvious. I thought she was going run out on the bill. 10 minutes later, she comes back with new makeup. Obviously, she has been crying, and makes up a whole story on how the food was awful, the drinks were bad, and so on, demanding that as bare minimum I should cut the bill in half with the agreement the baby Karens will chip in, even though she originally told them the night would be on her. Then, as if a light bulb went off in her head, she again mentioned her relationship with the owner, as if it were to give me additional incentive to cut the bill in half. Holding back a grin at this point, I told her no. Just no, I can't change the bill. She whips out her phone and shows me a series of texts with someone called my restaurant's name owner, which pretty much I realized was what she was doing in the bathroom, just probably changed one of the other Karen minions' contact name and deleted previous texts, so start this new script. I read them, then clicked on contact into and told her that's not the owner's cell number. Her reply was, "He has multiple phones for business and stuff, of course you don't know all his numbers." I remember, wow, this girl thought of everything except I'm the actual owner. I told her how about this if we call him and he says that it's okay to take 50% off the bill, then I'll do it. Her reply was a yelling and screaming over the time where the few remaining customers all began to start looking, and I knew okay, time to end this. I told her already in a less accommodating voice, "Cut the crap, little girl. You don't know the owner. You have never been here before, and if you keep yelling, I will call the police." Her demeanor changed, and she was trying to defend herself the best she could. My reply to her weak comebacks was, "My grandparents founded this restaurant. My family has been running this place for generations. I have worked here almost my entire life. I am the one and only owner of this restaurant, and I have never once seen you, heard of you, and I definitely never made a stranger I don't know and have never met before tonight any promises. The mini Karens were just frozen and didn't even know how to react. Queen Bee Karen was in tears. I said, "Now I gave you the table you wanted, one of your specially reserved tables for high-end clients, which I didn't charge you for, and I gave you 3 rounds of free drinks. If you don't pay your bill, I will call the cops and hand them your ID." In tears, Queen Karen signed the bill, and the mini Karens took out their purses to give her whatever cash they hand, which equaled to maybe a couple of hundred, with the promise to pay her back more. 2 days later, a man walks into my restaurant fuming and asks one of my bartenders to speak to me. I was in the back office for a bit working, so he waited a good half hour for me. He was Queen Bee Karen's father. She was with him too, keeping her head down. I took them both to my office, showed him highlights of the security cameras, which were especially good quality of audio because they were in the VIP, which we had to keep good records of because we have had other unrelated incidents before. So I showed him most of it, their comments, their orders, their everything. When all was said and done, he stormed out with her and was screaming at her the whole time they were walking away. Haven't seen or heard from either of them since, but the original bill I gave them, the one that didn't count the $120 oysters, is framed on my desk. Side note, I didn't lose as much overhead on the table in 3 rounds as you might think. The table was originally supposed to be empty, so I didn't lose anything since I didn't expect to gain anything to begin with, and the overhead for the food and other drinks more than covered the loss on the 3 free first rounds. I thought about posting this on Nuclear Revenge, but I read some of the stories there, and I think making this girl pay a few thousand and give her a life lesson doesn't qualify some of the revenge. There is life-ending revenge stories and losses in the tens or hundreds of thousands. The next one is an entitled people story. I, 21 years old, female, am getting married in a few weeks. A while back, I asked my sister-in-law, Sadie, 25 years old, female, to be my bridesmaid. My fiancé warned me that she could be intense, and I was under no obligation to include her in the wedding party. However, she had been nice enough, and I wanted to have a certain number of bridesmaids. I am now regretting my decision. Sadie has a boyfriend, Kyle, 19 years old, male. Kyle has partial custody of his ex's infant daughter. Not sure why, considering he is not related to her, but I never asked. Recently, Sadie had been on my case about picking a flower girl. I really want it to be my friend's daughter since I have a fantastic relationship with her, and I was actually in the room for her birth. I even refer to her as my niece. Sadie, however, didn't take this well. When I told her, she blew up and started ranting about how she will ruin the pictures. My niece is neurodivergent and tends to get overstimulated when standing for long periods, so photos may be a challenge for her. I tried to explain to Sadie that my niece was practically family, and her mother and I have been making a plan to ensure that the photos won't be overwhelming for her. Sadie then took the opportunity to suggest Kyle's daughter. I explained to her that I was in the delivery room when my niece was born, and I wanted her to be a part of my big day since my fiancé proposed. I thought that was that until about 2 weeks ago. I got a special dress for my niece that looks like a cross between my dress and my bridesmaid dresses. I was showing it to my family when Sadie gave me a gift bag. Inside was an identical dress but for a baby. Sadie then confessed to snooping around my laptop to find the dress I chose for my flower girl and took the opportunity to order one for her boyfriend's daughter. She then said both girls could be a part of my special day. When I said no, she started screaming at me because it was bad enough that her boyfriend wasn't a groomsman and that I should want him to be a part of the family, especially since my wedding was for the whole family, not just me. She called me a selfish bridezilla and stormed out. I was able to calm her down by suggesting Kyle's daughter have a special dance with me at the reception. This seemed to diffuse the situation, and my fiancé apologized for not clearly communicating just how crazy she can get. Everyone is telling me it isn't my fault, but I have to know. Am I the bad apple? Update. Sadie was disinvited from the wedding by my fiancé due to how she treated me. When her mom, fiancé's stepmom, got upset, he disinvited her too. I also got a message from Kyle's ex threatening to sue me if I let her baby be the flower girl. Sadie told her that she would be the flower girl. I am looking into hiring security and maybe changing the venue without telling her so she won't cause trouble. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.